Okay. And we're on live YouTube. Okay, so we're live now, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:02. And I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry. Seconder.
Curtis.
Curtis, thanks. Okay, adoption of the previous minutes from January 19th meeting.
Terry.
Thank you.
Patricia.
Thanks, Patricia. Okay, moving right along. Item 4. Where are we at? Visitor Information Center report. Cassie.
So for the month of January, definitely was a little bit slower. We had 47 parties in total, breaking down to 63 visitors. 18 were local, 5 were BC, and 10 were from Alberta. We made over $405 in sales, so definitely down from previous months. Consignment contracts have come back, and I've sent out the racking fee letters. So those are due back come March, and then we'll be working on the activity contracts as well. And then we did the out-of-town call-arounds for the VIC mail-outs for the visitor guides for 2021. So that's been completed, and that's it for us right now.
All right, thanks. Motion to accept Visitor Center report.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Curtis.
Did anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Correspondence for action. So we have a request for a letter of support for 2021 Valemount mountain bike infrastructure development from Varda. Curtis, do you want to speak to it a bit before we?
Yeah, sure. Tourism Valemount's always a great partner and supporter of our trail network. This year we're applying to the Community Initiatives Project for a I think our ask is around that $40,000 mark. We're hoping to finish our Swift Creek Trails plan, add 2 new trails within the bike park, basically for accessibility, with a green trail and a black trail, and spread riders out to trails that they should be on, not to have to be on from our staging areas. Our goal has always been to offer green, blue, and black from kind of each staging area, and try to get, we talk about green riders lots, and one of these trails is green, but it's also if you have a black rider on a blue trail or a turquoise trail, it tends to get worn faster. You have faster riders competing with newer riders, basically meeting our mission of trying to expand accessibility and access throughout the park. So as well as a skills development zone in the trailhead. So Varda's committing $25,000 to the project, and we're also applying to NDI as well.
Okay.
So we're just simply looking for a letter of support for future development, and tourism wise, with the creation of all the businesses, the social and economic benefits that we've already seen and have been proven, I think it's a no-brainer.
Okay. One quick question, and I'm seeing it lots on in other communities and bike parks and stuff, is adaptive riding trails. Is that something that sort of fits into some of these areas?
Yes and no. We're trying to fill holes right now. So after what we're doing all summer is planning, and we're going to have we're going to basically spend a lot of summer planning the next 5 years. It's a big desire of our committee. And that's planning with stakeholders, Forest, First Nations, Tourism Valemount, and basically the local community to try to see where trails will fit, where they should be, where they could be, what type of trails we want to see. And then accessibility wise, we have had the Kootenay Adaptive Association out here last year, and they rode a few of our trails and had a great time. And I was actually quite surprised. I thought some chokes were quite narrow. So I think with some help from them, we could be quite accessible with at least two, possibly 3 of our trails. But currently, I don't think we can advertise as an adaptive trail.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I mean, with for it to be an inclusive experience, I mean, and some of the stuff, I mean, some of the videos they've shown on the adaptive trails is pretty amazing what those guys do. So
Yeah, I think I want to be as positive about this as possible. There are very few of those bikes in Canada.
Yeah.
Very, very, very few, and they're very expensive and they're very hard to get. And the trails themselves are also quite a bit harder to build. But that being said, if we could adapt a few of our or adjust a few of our trails to increase accessibility, we're completely in. And that's actually part of the 2-day deadline I have actually asks if they're accessible, and I'll be addressing maybe some things that we could do. Moreover, having someone come in and tell us the repairs that we need, because we're not experts in this. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions before we go to the question? Okay, so somebody wants to make the motion that we
Terry,
send a letter of support. Thanks, Terry.
Patricia.
Patricia, thank you. All right. I'll take it that everybody's in favor. No, anybody speaking against?
just a quick question to Curtis on that. Can these trails be used for any type of skiing in the winter?
So our new Swift development, we're already seeing ski tracks out there. Now we've already have a big volunteer network working on fat biking as well. We're discussing looking at options for fat bike grooming, fat bike marketing. It's a big thing, and we're actually putting quite a bit of effort into it, volunteer wise, not Varda wise yet. So we have a volunteer bike committee that Randy's been out grooming some trails. We've been testing, seeing what trails work. And there's a big desire for a marketing plan as well. Although the time that we're in right now, we can't do marketing or really talk about, well, maybe we can do a marketing plan for the future. Kind of what we're doing right now is seeing what trails are possible for winter use. But they are skiing on, locals are skiing on them already for sure. And then, if we can groom for a fat bike scene, then it's a pretty big scene as well. You cannot buy a fat bike in Canada right now, and they're pre-booking for January 2022.
Wow.
And I'm saying that's due to COVID and that too, same as quads and
the demand. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it just goes to show that it is a big scene. Like it's a thing. I had my doubts, but I've been enjoying it lately. Yeah.
I just thought, we got all them trails, and I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I wonder, can they be used for skiing? Are people skiing them? Or?
Yeah, and there's some really neat groomers out there, and they're quite affordable, like tow behind groomers that are from Europe. So it's a machine that actually pulls you on a little drag and for setting track, and it's a pretty cool thing. And they're only about $5,500 to $6,000 to get. So I know there's some discussion in the works for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on. Item 6, old business, 6.1 radio ads. Jen?
So at the January 19th meeting, we had discussed whether there's any interest in doing any sledding ads for the rest of the winter season. They were scheduled to stop originally on March 18th and 19th. And at that meeting, we did not make a decision. So it's still on the table. I think everybody probably saw Diane's comment about, she said, she thinks it was still fairly busy this year. And with the COVID-19 restrictions, is it really effective to do any radio advertising for the rest of the winter season?
Okay. Anybody else's thoughts on this one? Terry, you got something to say. I know you do.
Yeah, I just don't know. Are we promoting? Are we not promoting? Are we staying in that line?
You don't know. I don't know. I just had the storm of the century, and I can't even talk about it. And I don't know what side of the fence I'm on either. But yeah, it's confusing when we're looking at McBride talking about it, Blue River talking about it. Revelstoke and Golden are still very calmly, but Golden's full on push with their Facebook and social media. But I think our community has been there's members of our community have been pretty clear about what they like to see from us, and we've been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't promoted the last 2 storms myself.
So I guess, part of the question is, to Diane's point, we've been fairly doing fairly well for the businesses. Is there any value? I mean,
No.
is this the time to just put them off and wait for this to get through this?
Yeah, I don't think there's a value in continuing with them.
And I think people know there's been a storm. We don't need to worry about that. They'll be here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's a strange time for everybody for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess we would look for a motion to discontinue the radio ads for the rest of the winter season at this point.
I can make that motion to discontinue the ads at this
Okay.
point.
Thanks, Patricia.
I have a question. The funds stay for advertising though for these for ads? Like, is that correct or?
Would that be right, Jen?
Sorry,
We hit-
did you say?
So we can pick these funds up again later for radio advertising. Like we don't, it's going to still remain for advertising. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seconder for the motion.
Okay,
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Curtis.
Curtis?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough times for trying to figure this stuff out. All right. 6.2. Kimbo Design Social Media Campaign Extension. Jen.
At the January 19th meeting, we had discussed that Kimbo Design had approached us again to extend the social media campaign. So the last extension was from December 15th to January 15th. And then they had found some extra funds that we had not spent yet to put it to the end of January. Now, of course, they, say they don't want us to end the campaign because they don't want us to lose momentum. They're worried about us stopping and starting because we'll be starting at the same time as everybody else. In our initial talks, they told me it was going to be $8,000 to extend the campaign each month. And then right before our last meeting, they changed their strategy, saying that we should just spend $2,500 for the next 2 months, so a total of $5,000 until April 1st, because we don't really know what's going on with COVID. And then in that time, we could start transitioning from winter to spring, summer activities. So as a reminder, we do have $20,000 in the social media campaign budget for 2021. We had put 2 motions on the table. So one was to postpone the campaign and restart it at a later date, depending on what the public health officers' orders were. And the other one was to continue on with the lower budget until April 1st and reassess. There were some concerns that came up with Premier Horgan perhaps shutting the borders down. So we didn't make a decision at the last meeting, and we said we would just wait until we had more information.
Okay.
So the lower budget one is 2,500 per month?
Yeah, they're just suggesting, so yeah, versus the 8,000 per month, it'd just be 2,500 per month, and they're suggesting for the next 2 months do that.
I think where we're sitting with health orders, we're not knowing what's really going on. I think we're going to need as much money as we can have in our pool when we are able to move. I think for the next 2 months, the sledders are coming regardless. So that's why we kind of just dumped the radio ads. My personal opinion is we postpone it till we see fit that we need to bring them in, which could be that between sledding and summer season. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Terry. Any other comments?
I have a couple of comments. I don't want Terry to think that I'm disagreeing with him because I think we should talk this through a little bit. But these social media campaigns, there is a momentum that goes with them, and the stopping and starting of them is extremely dangerous. With that said, I mean, we really should be thinking outside the box. Do we need to actually use this time for advertising? Can it be used for just awareness? So, Throwback Thursdays, this day on 1987 and run a Throwback Thursday campaign or something, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be about the marketing for today. This is about sustaining the destination. So, you know, I think Terry's right in a lot of ways where we need to have money in the coffers for when it does come time to restart, and we have to have a very substantial, a robust relaunch program. But I also am a believer that there should be a maintenance program in place. And again, it doesn't have to be advertising. It can just be brand awareness. And this is where, you know, this is where Kimbo needs to make their money. You know, it's easy to take a photo and throw it up there and say, this is Valemount, look how awesome we are. They need to come up with a strategy and a storyboard monthly and submit it to the board to say, this is what we want to do. They're the marketing firm, not us. So we're paying them a substantial amount of money to come up with a marketing quote unquote plan for us, or a strategy for the previous or the next coming month, which they're not. We're just using photos, and we're using the same photos over and over and over again from what I've seen. You know, obviously I'm not being targeted.
I'd have to agree with you, Tony. I thought this whole campaign was a little flat as far as uniqueness and creativity and change up goes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe we can hit Kimbo like that to say, you know, and I'm not advocating either way. I mean, I see both sides of the coin. Terry's 100% right. There needs to be money, and maybe some of that radio money is used come spring for the bike park, or maybe some of that money is used, that radio ads used in an off season, because we're, you know, we'll run the full year and then have that money again next year for the sledding. But I really think that Kimbo needs to step up their game and start coming up. Start thinking outside the box a little bit here. And again, it doesn't have to be advertising. It can be brand awareness and that's really what we're starting to lack, in my opinion.
No, that's a great point, Tony. And I mean, I was 100% agreeing with Terry. I mean, because that's where I was leaning. I mean, just like the radio ads, but I mean, you bring up a great alternative, you know, to do an awareness campaign. You know, hell, we've got a ton of historical photos from the area, and you're right. I mean, that's their job to put some together. So, Terry?
I think, Tony, you hit the nail right on the head. You know, I was not thinking that far into that, but I think that's the idea. And I'm actually surprised also that, you know, we're spoon feeding them where they should be here. This is what, these are our options, you know. You know, in front of me, I'm not seeing any great pizzazz that's doing anything. Yeah, I like the idea where Tony's going. I really do with that. Let Kimbo put something to us. And I don't know, guys, as we're moving forward, I know we're early now. So, you know, we're into sledders. So sledders are going to run till March, April. Then we're going to start picking up, or May's the end of the sledding, you know. And I know it's something we don't promote or let people know because we don't manage the backside of ATVs and that. But, you know, May Long Weekend is a major boost anywhere else in the world. And, you know, we don't do nothing for May Long Weekend except us locals. We go to the lake with the side by side and we have a ball. But, you know, I know just different pictures, whatever campaigns for Kimbo. But I think, yeah, seeing Valemount in the summer light, you know, for what we're doing ahead, you know, whether it's fishing, whether it's boating, whether it's side by side, hiking, everything that we have to offer.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just a quick side note on that, Terry, too, is one thing that's always surprised me in our community with what we have out there is that there is no dedicated, organized ATV off-road vehicle organization. Like you go other places and man, they have huge ATV clubs and stuff like that, you know, that, you know, take care of their own people and basically rule themselves. So if I can hit on that, we did hold a public meetings many years ago now, and we asked the ATV community to step up and kind of take charge of the trails, and they weren't interested in sharing their trails or maintaining trails, and the community at large actually was torn. There was the side who was torn, who was not super fond of the motorized side of things for summer, or the side that wanted to keep their sport quiet and their trails to themselves. And then we had the business side who wanted to see the economic impact of it, which is quite large. Right. So we've tried this before, and the local motorized market local motorized
users did not want to organize themselves into a club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Closest I've seen to organization is when the topic came up on social media about being able to ride your quads in town. That's as close to organization as I've seen.
VARTA still provides information on sustainable riding, but that's about it.
Okay. So for the Kimbo, our options are we take it back to Kimbo. Silvio, go ahead.
I just want to remind everybody that we will start a very consistent marketing strategy in a few weeks. And that's when we can reconsider all these kind of different aspects, from product development, what we should be advertising, what should be our focus. We have received around 10 submissions, responses to the RFP, and some are very strong. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, I hear all your concerns and suggestions. Please, that's important, because we should be really working on those for the new strategy plan. And we will be starting most likely, I hope, mid-February.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of coming back. All the concerns that have been mentioned now, please keep in mind, repeat them, bring them back when we will talk to the consultants, when we'll be working on the new strategy.
So are you suggesting then that we hold off until we come up with a new marketing plan? I'm not quite sure where we're at on the question.
Yes, because it could be some important questions. What I've heard, one strategy is bring many new things, new pictures, new videos. Some other strategies, they say very clearly, repetition, repetition, repetition. And so we don't know, right? Since we're not the real experts, probably somebody can guide us in that. It would be then also easier for us to do it. Then the most biggest problem that we have right now, whatever we do, we cannot really measure it. And when I say right now, because people in reality are not really allowed to do the non-essential travel. That's why it's a little bit tricky, right? Whereas as soon as we know that we can advertise, and then if we see some real increase in the accommodation sector, in the whole hospitality sector, then of course that will help us in saying, yes, it's a good strategy. It has some positive results and benefits, right? So that's why, yeah, my idea would be like the recommendation, let's probably postpone it and then see at a later date. And that means one can also review a little bit that strategy and see, was it good? And I mean here just a social media campaign, right? And again, I'm just kind of asking, when the big companies put out an advertisement for, let's say, a new Ford truck or whatever, I mean, for a whole year, it's the same. It's not that they give you always new pictures. And there's a reason also for the repetition. That's all. Just a little comment here.
Okay.
Tony had a question, Pete.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Tony,
Terry.
go ahead.
Sorry, Terry.
Yeah, no,
Terry. Okay.
no, Terry or Tony?
Terry, go ahead.
Hey, I was going back to Tony, still, which I didn't quite understand about the stopping of the campaign, how we lose momentum, which I understand, Tony. I think regardless with Silvio, that we're going to be going down a different road there in the future. I think, like I said, I like Tony's idea. If we get Kimbo to put something, how long does Kimbo need to put a program together? Can they do it in 2 weeks for next meeting? That's something that we can run just to stay out there without the big bucks spent on it. But, so we're there and we're not shutting down and losing momentum. I guess that's.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, if we go to a new marketing plan, then potentially we're looking at a new contractor for the social media campaign, everything. So, yeah, I agree to it.
I just would like to remind you, this contract has already ended a long time ago,
Yeah.
right? So we have just kind of been pushing it on and on and on. So I don't think that Kimber may be willing to come up with a new plan for us unless we hire them and pay them for a new plan, right? And when they have been continuing it, the reason was only one, because they paid less for the before Christmas campaign, because there are specific spots available and there are many other companies bidding for those spots. And so of course we did not have enough money for bidding for those specific spots. And so that money that was saved, they have been able to use it until now. That was the only reason why they also continued with this campaign at a lower cost, because that money was not spent before Christmas, right? So that's why, yes, we can approach them, but I'm sure they will say, yes, we don't do it for free, or we have to charge you, or we have to come up with a new contract.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying there. So the 2,500 would be just to maintain the status quo with their current campaign, which the consensus seems to be has been fairly flatline. So if we were to approach them, they'd probably be looking for more money to do a change of direction. So, all right, what's the feeling of the group? Curtis, you've been quiet on this one.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I like Tony's idea of a more affordable campaign, though, that keeps us current and maybe has a bit of a call to action, or like share your moments, or what was your favorite time? Tell us a story about Valemount. Something with maybe, to keep us. I do like the idea of keeping us current. I also appreciate Silvio's Ford truck reference. So with the static image, like there is something with repetition. Yeah, I think we still need to stay current, especially if we have the budget, but not with a call to action like come to Valemount, like our ads we're doing.
Okay. Any other comments?
I don't know. I'm just pretty easy with whatever majority goes with.
All right.
Tony, after hearing everything, what do you think?
Again, I see both sides of it for sure, and I think I said that in my opening sort of remark, where it's a tough one. As long as we're not saying come here, and if it's a status quo and we only need to get by 30-60 days with it, I think that's fine. But I do believe that in the next go round, if we do actually sort of set up another program with whoever, I think that there has to be a little bit more to it. And the marketing stuff that I've been privy to, I get the image burned in your mind of the same one, but there's just not enough engagement or positive engagement that I've seen with what we've done in the past. And I only say that because the marketing group that I'm working with at the hotel is just sort of, they think outside the box, and things do change, but there is a static there as well. So I'm open with what the group decides. If we say, it's status quo, we want to coast along to get through until what Silvio has said, I'm good with that. It doesn't sound like we have the money to change things midstream now anyway, so it sounds like that's really our only option, really.
Okay.
No, we have the money. We have the money. If you want to ask them to design a new campaign, that could be done. But again, let's not forget that also we will start a whole new strategy planning session for the next month and a half or so, right? And so we can review many of these things here.
On that note, I don't like rushing into asking Kimbo to do something we're not sure what we want yet. So if we're actually doing something that detailed within a month, I think we could wait. Because
Okay.
we might not get what we're hoping for, and we might spend a lot of money.
Yep, no, good point. Okay, so
I don't know.
what do we, what does the group want to do? Postpone it and wait for the new marketing plan versus get him to try and rework the program? Somebody throw something on the floor and we can vote on it.
Yeah, do we keep the 2,500, the low one, or do we just scrap it? I guess that's where we're at, right?
Basically, yeah.
Are
Well, it
we-
sounds like the consensus was we wanted to keep the consistency, right? So which would be the base program, what we already have in place. We're not looking at changing based on Silvio's comments saying that, we're going to go through a new marketing sort of path, I guess you would say. So, to say that we were just going to continue status quo, that's the $2,500 a month, and then look for a change once we have a new marketing strategy or path for marketing. Is that sort of what I took from it?
Yeah,
What-
I think that,
What Tony said.
yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, maybe, Kimball can look at just changing the verbiage a little bit. And I love, what Curtis and Tony both threw out there, share your memories of Valemount, tell us what brought you here, and, maybe they can just throw a little bit of different verbiage on the static slides they're using. I don't know.
So
Okay,
I
so
guess,
I'll consider it a motion then that we continue at the $2,500 level for the 2 months they've offered, and then we'll transition into a new marketing plan.
yep, I second. Well, that's what I do.
No, I'll let you make the motion.
Okay, I'll make that's the motion I made.
All right. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Seconder.
Patricia can second.
Thanks, Patricia. Okay, if everybody's good with that. So before we jump into new business, I have a quick question for Silvio on a piece of old business. Just wondering how we're doing with the RFP for the washrooms and all of that.
Just waiting. And as I said, most likely, if we're lucky, we will hear something by the end of February or March.
Okay.
And we submitted 2 important applications. The big ones were for the bridge over the McLennan, access Westridge, and the other one is the important one, of course, for the automatic self-cleaning washrooms. And as soon as we get a response, for example, if it's positive for the washrooms, then we can dedicate quite some amounts of the RMI and this year we have to implement it because it's our last year, for some downtown projects like benches along the trail, signage, and those things. Then a smaller amount we can keep also for the Cranberry Marsh. And then in probably May, June, we will receive from the provincial government again the announcement with regard for the RMI this year that we submitted 3 years ago, the business plan, and both Varda and Yora are aware of the amounts that have been requested and allocated. And of course, that may change a little bit this year. And as soon as we know, then it changes. And for both for Patricia and also for Curtis, if you need any letters stating that those amounts are confirmed, of course, I will, on behalf and through the village, send you those letters. Although the signing of the agreement may only happen after April the 1st, because it's in a new fiscal year and it's in a fiscal year of the province.
Is the funding amount confirmed, Silvio, or is that still up in the air?
Right now, the amount, that minimum is confirmed.
Okay.
It could be that it could also be a little bit more, but the minimum is confirmed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because in fact, last year, there was an increase of a few $1,000s, right? But this year, whatever we had allocated in the business plan, that's confirmed. And I can send you letters stating that if you need it for the NDIT applications.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So year 3 is as is. It's we have the money for year 3.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes, but we have it. But remember, the agreement will always come after April the 1st. So of course, you are not supposed and not allowed to start the works or the activities out
Yeah.
there
No.
in the field.
Yeah.
Now be
That's
careful.
key.
Mhm.
Because if anything goes wrong, right, we have some issues.
I
But
urge you to be careful,
For
Patricia. 'cause
applying for the matching funds, I feel comfortable giving you the letters because it's based on a business plan that we submitted 3 years ago. Yes.
Sorry. What's that, Curtis?
we got a little caught up last year without the contract being signed. We had it included and it made things clunky and awkward. I'd recommend leaving it out of anything you're doing now and then just do another project midsummer, but that's just my recommendation because it is not confirmed until the contract is signed.
Yeah. Well, no, we have nothing that's contracted out or anything like that anyway.
Okay,
You know,
Thanks.
I mean, we're going to obviously do 5 Mile, but we haven't even started putting out RFPs or anything, or even thinking about it yet. So
Gotcha.
that won't happen until after April.
okay. Thanks for that, Silvio. We'll move on. New business, viewing towers, bridges on the Cranberry Marsh. And that's Silvio.
Last week, I received an email from Duncan McCall. He's from the Ministry of Forests, and he represents or responsible mostly for the Cranberry Marsh, the works, the trails, and so on. And the good news is that the viewing towers have been assessed by professionals. They are still in good shape. All what they really need is probably some painting, some that kind of type, superficial maintenance, but the structure is still in excellent shape. And he also mentioned to me that he has got now plans for the bridges. I responded to him right away, said, please let me know when we can talk about it and get all the information. Unfortunately, he has not yet phoned me back or sent me an email back. As soon as he has that, of course, I will inform everybody and send out that information. But they also have now engineered drawings for the bridges. And the next big discussion that we may have in the next probably 1 or 2 years is how and who is going to fund those. And probably we will try again to get maybe some Columbia Basin Trust funds and maybe NDIT and a little bit also from the RMI and of course also the ministry. Let's not forget that it's under the jurisdiction of the ministry. So probably they also can get some funds, especially for the bridges, especially if it's guaranteeing safety. And unfortunately, Patricia, I don't know yet anything, and I hope as soon as it gets back to me, I'll let you know.
And Silvio, do you know if they engineered 3 bridges or 2 bridges? Did they do them all?
I think he said something all or 2. I think 2. Could it be 2 instead of 3? I'm afraid maybe only 2. But
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
2
know.
is good because
Yeah,
2 are in really bad shape. So.
yeah. And I think he has got something for those 2s. And I did write him back right away and said, please phone me anytime and available and so on. But I know that also all the ministry people, many are working from home or so. I'm just waiting. As soon as I get something, I will let you know.
Okay, because it
But
sure would
still,
be nice to get
it's
that
good
low
news.
bridge done.
Yeah.
What's that?
But it's still good news because
Sorry,
finally
what was that?
they have engineered drawings. I think that's the good news.
Yeah, that's very good news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's definitely a positive step for sure. Alrighty, thank you for that. Item 8.1, monthly financial report. And everybody sees on their agenda, we've got the MRDT attached. Silvio?
Yeah, just one word. It's not yet the final annual report because we're still waiting for the month of December, revenues of December, but the expenses are all there. So you see the expenses, they are up to December 31st, but unfortunately the revenues, as you know, sometimes they come 3 months later because
Yeah.
some of the accommodation, hospitality sector, hotels, they're allowed to send it in later on. So I hope by March, for sure, we'll have the year end. And I must say, it's still pretty amazing that the revenues are almost over $140,000 for this crazy year.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on MRDT as presented? Okay, I'll take a motion to accept the financial report.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Curtis.
Curtis, thank you. And 8.2, Marketing Coordinator's Monthly Report. Has everybody had a chance to look at it as presented? Any questions for Jen on her report? Okay, I'll take a motion to accept her marketing report.
Patricia can make the motion.
Thanks, Patricia. And seconder,
Terry.
thanks, Terry. Okay, date of next meeting, Tuesday, February 16th. We're going to carry on with the 2-week rotation. Okay. Other than that, I will, if there's no comments, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry. All right, thanks, everybody. And